Okay, but now we are back to the next two speakers, and then now we have the next speaker is Maya Minder. She's very sorry that she couldn't be here because her flight was delayed yesterday night, so she had no time to get another flight this morning and be here with us in time. So now she's in Zurich, and she will do her presentation from there. But she really would like to hear, I'm sure. So I'm going to present her. Maria Minder studied art history at the University of Zurich and completed an MA in fine arts at the Zurich University of Art. Her artistic practice is based on research where she explores food stories, evolutionary biology, and relational aesthetics through cooking, biohacking, performance, and media-based installation. Maya is a member of Bacteria and founder of the Open Science Lab at Zurich. She is also a founding member of the Soil Assembly and contributes to fungi cosmology and art science exchange between Brazil, Chile, and Switzerland, supported by Proebetia South America. Her exhibitions, workshops, and conference presentations include ISEA Seoul 2025, the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art in Kanazawa, Kunsthaus Zurich, Kunsthalle Bern, Jeu de Paume, and many others. So, Maya, do you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, perfect. But now it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Martin. I would love to be with you. Currently, the weather was not playing us. I hope you have a good time at the Pixel Fest. It's been some time. I participated in 2020 during COVID time, and back then already we only connected via online tools. So technology is helping us a lot, and I wish that sometimes I will be able to come to Bergen. So soil assembly, soil ecologist living pedagogies and perma circularity. I just want to give a small brief introduction into these and also talk a bit about the webinar. So as Maite announced, I'm an ecofeminist and biohacker, sometimes I curate. I love to collaborate. My media is mainly via the food, so not only food politics, but also actual physical and material entanglements with food. Some of the books I really love is, of course, The Art of Fermentation by Sandor Katz. I'm a fermentista. I taught hundreds of people into the art of fermentation, like going back to ancient cooking technologies, mainly also with Michelin chefs, but also inside the community. All those topics of fungi, seaweed, as Ewen also pointed out, bacteria, or those topics that interest me. So somehow biology is a main topic, and food, as I mentioned before, like I'm also part of the board of Food Culture Day, which is a biennale that is taking food as an umbrella topic and going into different artistic directions. I'm part of the Bitwäscherei, so this is a hackerspace in Zurich where we have several associations that share one big space. Here you see a picture of how it looked like empty. Now it's full of obsolete media, electronics, soldering, and also the biolab that we created together with bacteria.org. It's not the first biolab in Switzerland. There's more and more growing. I think it's a bigger movement that how biology is slowly also entering the realm of the society. And my idea is, of course, that it's also taking an approach of criticizing the top-down way of thinking by academics, but also making science accessible to a larger part of the society. As I said, fermentation was my access to biohacking in the sense that I started to do all those kefirs and kombuchas, and In the same time, I was reading and accessing scientific articles online, and I read a lot about the microbiome and started to become interested in. And interested, driven by curiosity and learning via reading and via the information that the internet is giving us. So in 2018, we created a biohacker retreat. And out of this, already the first attempts going into the direction of soil agency started. And I shortly want to show you this video. Yes, so this is some time ago. Now with our hackerspace and BioLab in Zurich, we host artist residencies, and we have inside this space we try to enable artists who are traveling from international spheres, traveling far as well, to stay longer and access also rich countries such as Switzerland and stay for some time. We are entirely non-funded. We're independent in that sense that the several associations that occupy this space, they kind of solidarily pay the rent and generate resources. The offer in our residency is mainly just space and time, and we connect the people to find accommodations and networks and everything. Here, maybe a bit of my inspirational background. The whole Earth catalog back in the 70s, of course, was one attempt how to create a larger network of how knowledge can be combined, relational as well, in a different approach. And this is the picture, of course, or the moment when humanity the first time saw the planet Earth from space. So the first time when we also become aware about like a terrestrial scale of what planet Earth is and the interconnectedness of all cultures, spaces, and geographies. Lynn Margulis, of course, has been a scientist that marked me a lot. We do a lot of microscoping, and via the visual comprehension and the visual interpretations and via the reading, it is very interesting to see that science also has a different narration. So Lynn, of course, marked the new ideas of symbiotic thinking, of mycelial thinking, of breaking down science as a solely patriarchal white male knowledge system. And here the reference to the book that actually James Lovelock wrote about Lynn Margulis to talk about her heritage. Lynn actually should have won a Nobel Prize. She never did, but I think she's so much an emblem of how a female person, a female scientist, also had the power to change this narration, which is an ongoing process here in the 21st century. As Maite also said, I'm part of Umi Cosmology, which was this initiative by Perma Verzier and SwissNext to unite artists, scientists, and curators from Brazil, Chile, and Switzerland. We had the chance to go deep into the Amazon rainforest and do foraging, mushroom foraging, in the woods, next to the snakes, the frogs, and all kinds of creatures. And we also went to the very south of Latin America, to Patagonia, to go into the research of fungi in that region. It was very inspirational, and there I also found out it's actually called funga. If you talk in the plural of fungi, you say funga, which is a nice idea of how the female approaches, female sciences, as I love to say, is also changing our mindsets. Of course, you have Marilyn Sheldrake, one of the other, so to say, fathers of how mycelial thinking, mycelial networks is changing currently our global society and reaching more into a decentralized idea of how knowledge, power, and systems are constructed, less than a top-down approach. Yeah, this is the promotional video of his book. If you have the time to look it online, do you want to see it?
We don't get the sound.
Yes, okay.
Maya, if you want to share a video, you have to share the video in YouTube.
Okay, it's not showing. Okay, it doesn't want to be shown. Good, we don't show it.
We see the image, but we don't hear. Through Jitsi,
You don't hear. Yeah, no, that's okay. It's just you can see it online. It's a funny video how Marilyn Sheldrake is slowly eating the mushroom that has been devouring his book. So it's a really nice metaphor of how to digest knowledge as well. And he says he has like small anecdotes where he says like he would have been disappointed if the Pleurotus wouldn't have eaten his book, because apparently the mushroom Pleurotus also has distinguished taste of what he likes to eat or not. And let me just talk about mycelial thinking. Hyphia, as in Greek, it's not only mushroom who has the capacity of connecting, but also oomycetes, Antinobacterium. And what is the most distinguished thing is that as currently science is looking a lot into the ideas of what fungi is and how fungi is connecting our ecosystems with this root system, that it becomes also interesting that this adaptation can be taken as an analogy of like human urban planning and human movement, as swarm theories is also happening. And mycelia, of course, is something that is very important for our soils. As I said, they are the magical wizards that give and exchange all the nutrients to our plants and trees. And without the soils, also the soil would erode. And as Ewen also said, within our ideas of the soil assembly, like slowly humanity is also coming to a conclusion that soils are the essential, very complex tumult, but essential existence for us, humanity, and the entire ecosystem to strive and to continue. We also started to gather in this form of a soil assembly, to gather voices in the international sphere about activities, agencies, people who are active in that field and who want to promote more of this knowledge. Because it's not only that we found out that all of the artists and curators, they are occupied with the same topic. It's not about repetition, but it's really about that this is not only a trend, but it is a global movement that currently is happening. So Soil Assembly just recently been at the COP with one of the members, Nora Houseweird. She was distributing our newspaper at the COP, and I think it's very important also to take this agency as an artist, not only in a way of being an activist, but also in an educational level. So, as I said, the economical, political, and social theories and movements associated with the implementation of an assembly can create collective ownership of it. Soil ownership can be built up by and through the structure of an assembly. It is a desire in these times of diminished freedom and speech to exchange, to stay aligned with the geological, geopolitical, international structure without implicating strict methodology or an organizational structure. The idea of this international gathering of artists, designers, curators, architects, educators, activists, farmers, hackers will support the freedom of exchange and sharing of knowledge. It will be an active dissemination of a humanistic, biodiverse, holistic approach within notions of agricultural practice. It asks how to share the commons and how to create networks or syndicates that fosters practices of cooperation, community or collectivity in a social and political way, especially with those that are multilateral and which provide mutual benefit for all of those involved. An assembly accepts the universality of ecology, of human-made structures and more than human correlations in agriculture and life, and fights against homogenization and monocultural practices. Freedom of movement for plants, animals, humans, seeds and goods. The word permaculture implies it exists of two words, the culture as in agriculture, horticulture or cultural, and perma as durable, lasting and sustainable. So we created this soil assembly in India back in 2023 by the invitation to join the art school Srishti, School of Art, Science and Technology, and also with a cooperation with CREAM, the Westminster University Neil White, to somehow come up with a contribution for the Kochi Musiri Biennale. And we thought of like, let's combine the strengths of 4 curators and invite all those practices which are somehow having soil as an umbrella topic and create a conference that would try to reach out also via digital media to the worlds. So since 2023 there has been 2 big soil assemblies happening in Kochi, India and also in Ecuador, La Chimba. And we are connecting all the videos as an archive to also not only archive those very valuable and precious informations that come from around the world, but also to create and generate a network that is somehow solidarizing and supporting. Our values are, of course, sharing culture, ideas, and knowledge, empowering by creating international networks. In doing is learning, hands-on and fostering creativity, lifelong learning, integrating science and technology, re-implementing indigenous knowledge and traditional ecology knowledge, fostering biodiversity for the next generation. Oh, we have this. So the program at the Soil Assembly is very diverse. There are performances, there are workshops, there are food gatherings as well. And as we said, and I mentioned before, it strives to be on an open access level, also integrating not only artists or curators, but scientists, hackers, makers, journalists, communities, and in a very integrational and integrative way. So here you have some links where you see how you can reach up to us. There is, as I said, the video archives. If you go to soilassembly.net, you will find all the previous editions. We have about 48 hours of recordings. Some of them are very interesting, especially the ones from Ecuador. I cannot value which one were the most interesting. Each one is interesting, of course. And also follow us on Instagram. We will update news there. And what we are currently doing is that since we started in 2023, we are actually also planning the next edition in, again, Koji Musiri Biennale, where we will repeat our conference and try to gather new voices in these directions. And we are thinking also of creating a structure with an association and advisory board that maybe is based in Switzerland, since Switzerland has somehow this notion of being a diplomatic neutral country. Tinku Pacha was curated by La Papaya, Divina, and Pedro Soler. And they are sited in the region of La Chimba. It's a region which is also the heritage of Amaguana, a very important indigenous female leader who was fighting for soil ownerships, like land ownerships for indigenous people in the 50s and 60s, and who actually also succeeded that those property laws and allowing indigenous people also to become property or property rights for indigenous people, she succeeded to bring it into the Convention of Ecuador. Not only her, of course, other activists as well. Currently, Ecuador is under a major threat, as everywhere the right-wing movement is continuing. Ecuador has also a larger part of the Amazonan rainforest, and this part is endangered because it is known that a large field of petrol oil, crude oil, is underneath that forest. So the convention currently is under threat because the new president wants to change it. And when we held this soil assembly in La Chimba, it was also the anniversary of Amaguana, and we hosted a crowd campaign, which was collecting money to produce a new newspaper and also to produce the Tinku Ukupacha. So independence is something which we think is very important. Of course, it needs not only the independencies of financial way, but mainly the strength comes from the community and the circularity of it. So here I want to point out one of the presentations that was held, which was by Larissa da Silva Arayuyo, or not one of the presentations, it was actually several presentations circling around this topic of the very ancient practice of permaculture in the Andes. So as I said, Andes, Latin America has this huge heritage, cultural heritage of agriculture, which somehow I understand, because it was only conquered by the Western society by the 15th and 16th centuries, lots of this knowledge is still present. And it's interesting how the analogy of Christian witch hunting and the religious wars in Europe, who also destroyed a lot of indigenous European knowledge, is somehow parallel in the time frame. So anyway, in the Andes, of course, you have all those practices, like all the biodiversity of potatoes and tomatoes and chili plants is coming from Andean ancient agriculture practice, and a lot of people are reoccupying this or trying to document and note down this precious knowledge. So chakra and chakana is this practice that in La Chimba is actively adapted and still in use, that is mainly also promoted by females as well, and it talks a lot of this this chakana structure of how to do how to do permaculture. So in Europe, of course, in Europe we have this circular gardens, permaculture gardens, which is designing gardens in a way of what kind of plants you're mixing together to create this biodiversity, not only from the plants, but also the soil microbes. And the same is happening in this Chacana. But what is interesting is that this the structure of the Chacana is somehow an Andinian cosmology, as they say, and I will put it back. You see here this cross, and this cross is actually also connected to the 5 elements: fire, earth, wood, water, and air. And it divides the way how you implement different plants into those Chacanas. And what they are saying is that the Chacanas is actually that what is interesting is that cultivating a chakra, cultivating this Chacana as a garden and agricultural principle is protecting the soils, the aggregation system, but it also has a social aspect of how family, community, and traditions are operated. And very interestingly as well, like here with the color codes, like I see as a person also of Korean ethnicity and Asian background, I see a huge connection to Asian cosmologies. So what I wanted to say. Here you have a bit of yes. Here I wanted to show you this one presentation online on the YouTube, but actually YouTube, I'm not sure if we can manage to do the YouTube. Like, shall we try?
Yeah, but it's very easy. I tell you how. It's super easy.
How?
If you go to the 3 dots that you have in the Jitsi tab. Okay?
Yes.
At the bottom you have 3 buttons, right?
Yeah.
And there is video sharing video, something, share video.
Yeah.
And then you put the YouTube URL, and then
yes.
we can hear the sound.
Okay, just a second. Yes.
No, it's video share. I mean, you open the 3 dots. Maybe you can say it's in German or what? You open the 3 dots.
Video tie-in. Oh, share video, not in English.
It's share video. No, this is mine, but she has it. Yeah. Is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 option from the top, or 4 option.
Maybe I send you the YouTube link.
Yeah, okay, Lena. Yeah.
Okay, just a second.
In the chat, yeah.
This one.
Somos custodios del legado de nuestros ancestros. Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gabriela Quinatoa, soy ingeniera agropecuaria y para mí es un gusto estar en esta tarde aquí, en este encuentro, en esta asamblea del Tinco Ucupacha, compartiendo experiencias, investigaciones que hacen referencia, ¿no?, a los conocimientos de nuestros pueblos indígenas, a nuestras comunidades, a la sabiduría de la cultura a la que pertenecemos, ¿no? Agradecerles también por la invitación a este encuentro de investigaciones y pues en esta tarde dinámica del suelo de nuestra latina bajo la influencia del cosmos, basados en un calendario no festivo de la cultura del pueblo Cayambi en la comunidad indígena Pucará de Tecito. Uno de los problemas principales en los que nosotros nos enfocamos, todas las comunidades o los investigadores, es el problema en que nosotros nos enfocamos es de acuerdo a los cultivos intensivos que hemos estado teniendo en esta actualidad, ¿no? Para nosotros realizar una investigación o proyectos para crear alternativas que ayuden a frenar este tipo de cultivos intensivos es el tema de los monocultivos, el uso indiscriminado.
What's stuff to go, no? Somebody pulled the plug.
Oh, it's 1 o'clock.
No, it doesn't
It's
matter.
2 o'clock.
No, they're not closing or anything.
Is it?
No, no.
I have no idea.
Momento.
It's time. Wow.
Ah, but say something to Maya. Everything.
Shut down.
The TV off
No, on your
Just
right
like that?
side. No,
without
on your right side. Behind you.
any word or anything. Just everything was like running.
Maya, can you hear us? There we have a technical problem in the room. It's all the light got on and no more screen.
universales, los valores, los elementos. Ya, también tenemos lo que es el calendario agrofestivo de la cultura del pueblo cayambe. Este calendario de igual forma está armonizado dentro de esta chacana, ¿no? Resaltando así para nosotros como pueblos indígenas, para lo que otros son solsticios, equinoccios, para nosotros son tiempos de raims, tiempos de festividades, tiempo de conexión con el universo, con el cosmos, con la Pachamama, con el Taita Inti, con la Mamaquilla. Entonces son tiempos de fiestas de agricultura, tiempos de ceremonia donde nosotros vamos a generar vida, vamos a generar alimentos, y mediante este ciclo de producción nosotros nos conectamos con el universo, agradeciendo mediante ceremonias, rituales, ofrendas para nuestra Pachamama. Entonces, por eso es que nosotros resaltamos nuestro calendario agrofestivo como tiempos de Raimi. Se resalta lo que es el Paucaraimi, Caparaimi, el Cuyaraimi y el Intiraimi, los tiempos de sagrados, tiempos de Raimi. También para integrar esta chagra andina se revisa cuáles son los cultivos propios de nuestro territorio. Actualmente nosotros, los campos de los pueblos indígenas, los campos, los terrenos, los territorios, ahora se ven pintados de fincas florícolas en grandes extensiones. Lamentablemente han sido, en nuestros granos propios de nuestra zona, han sido reemplazadas por esas fincas florícolas, por la producción intensiva de lo que son papas. Y lamentablemente los granos propios de nuestro territorio se echaron a perder. Ya no se cultivan alberjas, ya no se cultivan las habas, ya no se cultivan lo que es la cebada. Últimamente se ha perdido ese tipo de agricultura que los abuelitos, nuestros legados, sintonizaban cada cultivo para tener alimento para todo el año. Y este alimento era producido orgánicamente. Lamentablemente ahora la gran demanda que existe a nivel mundial por la alimentación ha generado que las personas se vean presionadas a sustituir una agricultura orgánica por una agricultura intensiva, donde aplican lo que es los productos químicos, que es uno de los ejemplos principales que han generado acelerar el tiempo de producción de cada producto. Han minimizado la mano de obra, han minimizado los costos de producción y han dejado detrás lo que es la integración de los cultivos propios de nuestros territorios. Eso en cuanto a los cultivos propios de nuestro territorio. Y todo esto, la cosmovisión, nuestros símbolos, en nuestro calendario, nuestros cultivos, nace desde la fuente principal que son nuestros abuelos. Nace del testimonio de nuestras taitas, de nuestras mamás, que son ellos los que se conectaban antes. Ellos no necesitaban de realizar tanta ciencia, tanta investigación con laboratorios, con tecnología. Simplemente ellos sabían los tiempos, los ciclos de producción, porque ellos se conectaban con el universo, con la tierra, se conectaban con cada una de las plantas, con cada uno de los cultivos, y no necesitaban que alguien les afirme que lo que están haciendo bien, porque simplemente esa fue su ciencia vivida, como se dice, en carne propia, su ciencia, su convivencia dentro de sus territorios. Una vez resaltados los factores que iban a integrar esta chagra, este es el diseño que se hizo para distribuir los cultivos dentro de una chagra. Podemos ver que la chagra principalmente está dividida en 4 dimensiones. Las 4 dimensiones que dividen a esta chagra hacen referencia a los principios que tiene la chacana. La chacana es un puente cósmico dividido en 4 dimensiones que armoniza los diferentes valores, diferentes elementos. Entonces aquí es donde podemos ver que en la chagra se hizo en 4 dimensiones. La forma circular, tenemos 4 anillos concéntricos que hace también referencia a lo que es la piedra cósmica, el churro de la vida, donde el principio de esta piedra es que la vida no se termina, la vida continúa, la vida se regenera. Entonces, en el primer anillo, nosotros se integró plantas propias del territorio, como son las plantas medicinales. Las plantas más pequeñas dentro del anillo central. En el segundo anillo se integró lo que son las hortalizas, plantas medianas, plantas que tienen un ciclo, se puede decir, empiezan a salir, ¿no?, las hortalizas de 1 mes hasta 3 meses. En el tercer anillo, en cambio, tenemos todo lo que son tubérculos como las papas, el melloco, la mashua, cultivos que tienen un ciclo de 3 a 4 a 5 meses. Y en el cuarto anillo tenemos lo que son cultivos, plantitas más grandes, más arbustivas, con más follaje, que tienen un ciclo de 4 a 5 hasta 8 meses de producción, hasta que hacemos la última cosecha, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cuál fue el objetivo de integrar de esta forma las plantas? Las plantas, desde las más chiquitas a las más grandes, generan protección entre ellas. Ahí están armonizadas. Desde el hecho de que sean las plantas más chiquitas no significa que sean menos importantes, sino más bien hace que toda esa forma de organizarles hace que no exista competencia entre las plantas, sino más bien haya un beneficio mutuo. Porque si vemos desde las plantas medicinales, desde el centro, las plantitas, una vez que empiezan a producir para hacer nosotros nuestra medicina, nuestras aguas, nosotros todos los días podemos arrancar una hojita, una flor para hacer aguas. Entonces, desde la planta más chiquita hasta la planta más grande, que viene a ser el maíz, nosotros podemos ver que tenemos alimento para todo el año. Para todo el año, nuestra chacra va a estar produciendo todo el año, hasta que el cultivo, que es de 8 meses, se siga cosechando, se sigue protegiendo entre sí las plantas. Alrededor de este anillo, de esta chacra, se sembró lo que es la planta de chocho. La planta de chocho, su ciclo es más o menos de 1 año a 1 año 2 meses. Entonces, mientras todo se va cosechando, se va produciendo, el chocho va protegiendo al resto de la chacra. Es como una barrera natural que va a protegernos de animales externos. Y bueno, este fue el resultado de lo que es la chacra. Cómo se armonizó de acuerdo a los principios de la chacana. Podemos ver en el círculo cómo está integrado las plantas medicinales, las hortalizas, los tubérculos, los cereales, las gramíneas. Así es como se integró la chacra y así es como nos quedó. Estaba igual para hacer un uso óptimo del recurso hídrico, de lo que es el agua. Se aplicó un sistema de riego por goteo y por microaspersión. Ya. Y bueno, esta fue la primera etapa, ¿no?, de la investigación, de cómo se armoniza la chacra físicamente. La segunda etapa fue determinar qué dinámica existe bajo el suelo, qué pasa con los seres que están bajo el suelo, lo que es los microorganismos, qué pasa con las propiedades del suelo. Entonces se procedió a tomar muestras de suelo en los tiempos de Raimi, lo que es en el mes de septiembre Kuyaraimi, diciembre Kapagaraimi, marzo Paukaraimi y julio el Intiraimi. Y para hacer una comprobación, para ver qué es lo que pasa con los meses comunes, se cogió una muestra de suelo en el mes de febrero y de julio, en tiempos de lo que es la luna llena de estos raimis. Y en los análisis de suelos nosotros podemos ver que se hizo un análisis de lo que es
This is something that we can follow online. It's very interesting, the first part, because it's explaining all these, how they are recovering. Explaining how they are recovering actually this ancestral way of making the agricultural area to recover the soil. But this is online, and then Maya is telling me that for her this was her video, like to say goodbye. So now we are going to pass to the next presenter, that is the last one. is Marina Otero Verzier. She cannot be here, so she has sent a video with her presentation. We have been today looking at the soils, no, from different countries or areas in the planet, but also from different perspectives, no? From Davina into more emotional, let's say, no, or more belonging thing. From Ewen in a totally different, more art collective, fighting, no, or research, journalist. Maya is, she's also también in the food, in the how to rethink about the food and the materials and all this. And then now we are going to see also how, for example, the data storage that we are doing now with all these data centers are also changing the soils where they are where they are taking place. So Marina, she's an architect. I don't know, I have to read this. Marina, she's an architect and researcher. Is a lecturer at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. She also leads the Data Mourning Clinic at the Columbia University. And her work focuses on infrastructures, ecologies, and new pedagogical models that questions the politics of technology. In recent years, Otero has investigated the environment impact of computation, looking at the material consequences of digital infrastructures and proposing ways of reimagining them through composting or circular strategies. So at Perma Soil, she will address the entanglement of soil and computation, so showing how infrastructure of extraction and infrastructure of data are deeply interconnected. So I'm going to put her video. A ver.
I'm very sorry I cannot be there with you today, and I have to present a video. And you wouldn't believe how many failed attempts I've made to record this video, so I hope this is the last one, fingers crossed. I'm gonna share screen. In particular, I'm going to talk about computational compost. It's a prototype I recently designed, but I'm also going to go through a range of projects developed over the last 10 years, involving archival research, fieldwork, exhibitions, prototypes, film, educational initiatives, policymaking, and books. I'm not going to talk directly about these projects, but through them, I will navigate a strange journey full of dead ends and I hope also new paths and moments of emergence. And I'm going to start with Atlas. This is one of the 2 supercomputers at the Donostia International Physics Center in the Basque Country, north of Spain. It is used by the scientific community to, for example, run simulations of the universe origins, simulations like this one. But in order to generate this incredible image, what is required is this. The machine consumes significant amounts of energy and water and emits CO2, as well as substantial heat. This heat must be carefully managed to avoid disrupting the operation of the supercomputer. In this facility, it is expelled outdoors through large fans like these ones. The air released can reach temperatures of around 50 degrees Celsius, so it's quite hot. So the center redirects the heat into its immediate environment, this park. You can see the wall, behind which we find Atlas, and then these fans that release the heat outside. But this process has caused, for example, a loqua tree to bear fruit earlier than usual in the year. It blooms fruits earlier because it's confused, thinks that it's in another season. And this anecdote that all the scientists in that center know about, understood on a planetary scale, reveals the significant impact of digital infrastructures on processes related to climate change, like warming up the planet. 100 megawatts data center consume as much electricity as 100,000 households. But data centers require more and more energy to train artificial intelligence models. The largest data centers announced consume more than 3 million households, more than entire cities. It was reported by the Financial Times and many other media that in areas in London, it is not possible to build new homes because they will not have access to electricity. The grid is already stretched by data center consumption, and we know how important it is to address the housing crisis in so many places. But sometimes it's not even being possible to build them because of this situation. In other places like Ireland, the data centers have already made the prices of energy going up and up. This adds to the fact that data center emissions are 600% higher than previously reported, and that big corporations like Google have dropped their zero emissions goal to stay competitive in the so-called artificial intelligence race. Elon Musk is even going further, using illegally very polluting gas generators to power his data center in Memphis, because the grid was already at capacity, and obviously he's not gonna stop training his very fastest AI. So this is the real cloud. It's not ephemeral, it's not ethereal, it's not light, it's not floating. It is heavy, it is hungry, it's polluting. The lack of transparency on how these companies use our data, our collective intelligence, to make billions training AI, capturing our attention, time, and money, and selling us products we actually don't need, has caused a lot of outrage around the world. Data centers are now a site of a struggle, and while energy consumption is a significant challenge for data centers, so too is the immense amount of water used for still many data centers to cool down the servers. In Santiago, in Chile, a main destination for data centers, the community of Cerrillos successfully opposed a Google data center that contributed to the overexploitation of a local aquifer in a context of drought. Basically, they proved that the operation of Google will dry up the entire aquifer. And this case is uplifting because it shows that collectives, activists, citizens groups can actually stand up against the practices, unsustainable practices of these companies. I have worked in Chile alongside some of these communities, mostly in Quilicura, also in the outskirts of Santiago, protesting data centers like this one by Google. Here you see again the real cloud. This one is formed by the evaporation of millions of liters of water used to cool servers, while simultaneously warming the surrounding environment and drying up this wetland ecosystem that is so fundamental for the entire region, and so many human and more than human beings that are sustained by this water. That's why I ended up working with these local groups on activism, advocacy, and advancing forms of regulation, accountability, and more restrictive legislation for data center. We collaborated in drafting the first national plan for data centers in Chile. It's not perfect, but it's one of the most progressive. And I really hope that if there is a change of government in Chile, this plan will stay. It includes the regulation that communities have to be involved in every single process of its development. I'm also contributing to advisory work for municipalities in Spain that are threatened by a boom of data centers in their territories. Current regulations that are very much based on the Energy Efficiency Directive from the European Union mandate optimizing energy consumption and utilizing waste heat. They are becoming compulsory. However, we believe this is not enough, and such soft measures could distract from the real environmental cost of AI. They are huge, and as I said, a lot of them have to do with the huge amount of electricity that is needed around the world. But the industry has fully embraced the idea of waste heat reuse, even launching campaigns like this one, in which a swimming pool at the Paris Olympics was heated using energy from data centers. I've traveled the world trying to find the most eco-social examples of data centers, thanks to an award from the Harvard University. I went to Rice in Sweden, almost in the Arctic Circle. They have been using the waste heat from data centers for years to grow plants and vegetables. Our emails and TikTok videos could grow tomatoes, but also worms, fish in fish farms, and dry wood that is later used as biomass. Worms were the most successful of the three applications. Worms are fed to chickens, which would otherwise eat imported dry food made by soy from the Amazon and contributing to deforestation in the region. The chickens are very happy with the worms, and the process responds to a circular economy in the region. Our digital files generate heat, the heat generates worms, the worms feed the chickens, and the humans eat the chickens to send more and more emails and TikTok videos. In Stockholm, part of the energy generated by servers is transferred to the city's heating network. Our emails could also heat homes. And actually, this has been developed for real by a French company that installs heating servers in homes, offering residents a free source of heat in exchange of having these small data centers in their premises, in their living rooms. According to them, a server can heat an entire room. The problem happens in summer, because who wants extra warmth during a heat wave? That's why this company now uses small data centers to provide apartment buildings, not households, but entire apartment buildings with warm water, which is used year-round. But perhaps at this pace of industry growth and innovation, entire cities, all our houses will become data centers. Investment in these technologies are astronomical. More and more voices are warning that we are facing, in fact, a new bubble that is about to burst with catastrophic consequences. Our obsession with creating better digital worlds is actually destroying this imperfect world we inhabit. Meanwhile, the industry tries to find every single place in the planet to keep data centers running and find ways to cool them down. A floating data center that uses the water from a river near San Francisco and Stockton, or underwater data centers that are cooled directly by seawater. What is to be seen is what is the impact of marine ecologies. Or data centers orbiting the Earth in outer space, where the cold of the space might temper the heat of our desires, our compulsive desires for more data, more energy at the cost of the planet. So the cloud does not float above the ground, it is built into its depths. Even in the depths of our beings, any space or body is now susceptible to being turned into a data center for unrestrained industry. Data center storage is also looking into DNA as a medium for storing information. DNA that in this case is artificial molecules, but there are voices that already imagine each of us turned into a walking data center. Our compulsion to accumulate data and create digital worlds is incredible, doesn't have a limit. Amid this craze to find places to store and process data, to train AI, to mine data, I sometimes wonder if deletion and mourning, let go and mourn that file, that digital life, could be a form of resistance against the companies that weaponize our information and memories. But are we ready to let it go? There are so many rituals in our world that are connected to let go. Can we actually also let go of digital files, our digital experiences? Are you ready?
The recycle bin is corrupted. The recycle bin is corrupted. The recycle bin is corrupted. Do you want to empty the recycle bin for this drive?
I love this video by Anna Robles. But for the record, I don't know about dogs, but cat videos should always absolutely stay forever, like at any cost. Well, so actually after reflecting for a long time on deletion, I direct the data mourning clinic at the Columbia University. I realized that it's not possible to delete. Information is replicated, stored in various servers, mirror data centers, accumulated even when we want to get rid of it. If you go to this website, Just Delete Me, you will find how many platforms, how many websites that we use every day will keep our data forever. DHL, Blogger, Wikipedia, YouTube, Roblox, you name it. Paradoxically, then, we can't save data either, so we cannot delete, but we cannot save it, or at least not as long as we think we can. So we accumulate all this information in externalized devices because we trust those devices more than our memory. And we think these memories will stay almost forever, but they are not. Users of Google Photos found that some of their images that were stored in the platform were unreadable, like this one, or have glitches. These instances help us ask, what is the best way to preserve memories? What should we store and for whom? For whom are we storing all this information? Who will be able to retrieve it and read it? Will they have the software and hardware? Will the files be readable? How do we understand the architecture of storage as a combination of energy, climate control, security, and desire? Data decays, just as our bodies and the planet do. Yet we keep relying on externalized devices in a futile attempt to contain the past, present, and future with climate-controlled spaces, places where we hope that our documents, objects, and information can withstand the warming air, the shifting seasons, even time itself. trees bloom and bear fruit earlier due to the emissions from computational processes. So what do? I don't have the answer. That's why I tried to find entries at so many levels, from theory to fieldwork, to educational initiatives, to film, to advocacy, activism, legal processes, and also prototypes. So I promise Maite I will show computational compost. So I worked with a scientist that designed that simulation of the origin of the universe that was affecting the tree. And I asked them if they would like to address the environmental impact of data storage and propose a synergy between technology and ecology, or at least try. So we created this machine. The prototype is composed by a Raspberry Pi farm that effectively runs the simulation of the universe calculated by the scientist. In the process, the CPUs can reach temperatures of up to 70 degrees Celsius, and this heat is redistributed through a metal plate to the other side of the prototype. The heat emitted by a computational system running the simulations of the universe origin is used to power a vermicomposting machine with live worms and microorganisms that thrive on this energy to create fertile soil, soil that sustains life in its most primal form. Our aim was that celestial, computational, and biological bodies are linked by processes of metabolism and fermentation, decomposition and regeneration, the desire and metamorphosis that runs through all cycles of matter. Computational compost reimagines digital infrastructure as life-generating system. But the reality is that not all the lives were equally welcomed. In the third installment of the prototype at the Milan Triennale, actually, this being showed up. It was not expected, and we didn't know at the beginning what it was. So we were a bit concerned, and after asking so many people, it was identified as Oxidus gracilis. I was reassured that it was a sign of a healthy compost, so I should not worry. I should not worry either about the relations between the worms and the Oxidus gracilis. It should be harmonic. When I saw this image, I thought otherwise. It looks like a battlefield. But anyway, everything will be fine, they said. The biologists, experts in worms and compost. And a few weeks later, the designer of the exhibition sent me this image, this text. Somehow your little are walking around the exhibition. I'm here right now, haha. Obviously the worms stay always in the compost. They don't go outside through kind of the grid that we have for ventilation and watering. But the Oxidus gracilis, they have a lot of feed, so they try to explore. The glitch actually reveals the fallacy of our technological fixes, showing how our desire for control, even if well-intended, like in my case, is confronted by the unruliness of life, which I refer to as feral proliferations, in reference to Anna Tsing's work. And funny enough, I found these feral proliferations all over when I was doing all this research over the last years. For instance, this crypto farm in the north of Sweden wanted to use the waste heat from the servers for growing vegetables to create a circular economy in a region that is very cold. It's difficult to have agriculture. But the air coming from the servers was too dry, so they had to add moisture and humidity, which in turn attracted unexpectedly insects and bats that eventually ate all the plants. When I came back after a few years, the bats had destroyed all the produce, and they were trying to use hydroponics to avoid this entire failure. I also like this one that was shared with me by the amazing journalist Marta Peirano. It's an internet story which I love, even if it turns out to be fake. But it's about a group of stray cats that supposedly brought down a Bitcoin mine in Mongolia. They were searching for this worm and they collapsed the servers. Or the jellyfish that shut down a nuclear power plant in France. These nuclear plants that are now the wet dreams of data center owners looking for more and more energy, and that remind us how fragile our systems are, even they are very important and we depend on them, as we saw a month ago with this Amazon outage. And of course, all the communities that protest data centers around the world with whom I stand and collaborate. I celebrate, therefore, and this is what this presentation is about. It's a celebration of the bugs, the insects, the cats, the jellyfish, the Oxydus gracilis, activist groups, and all those who rise up against these extractive data infrastructures. Because in fact, we can do it differently and better. Most of data centers are designed for hot data, and very, very private data like bunkers. But there are many data ecologies, the ecologies of data that I always talk about: cold data, hot data, temporary, long-lasting, open and private. So depending on the different combinations that we create through these different data ecologies, we can imagine a data center that is a forest, or a data center that is a small, community-led data center. So there are many different systems. There are many projects coming from feminist servers, perma-computing community, instigating decentralized microcenters that could be managed at the individual or, even better, neighborhood level. For instance, a solar-powered digital space, which means it sometimes goes off, or a computational system powered by Compost or Mycelium, as this Compost computer. Obviously, this will allow for a high frequency, high resolution, high speed, always on digital space. But if at home we can regulate temperature and energy consumption, why don't we do it with our digital life? Why, if our cities have different rhythms, there are places that are open or closed, sometimes we have to line up to pay for something, banks are not always open, there are only a few services that are always on, the rest, vary. Why then our digital space is not also attuned to other conditions? And sometimes it's on, sometimes it's low, sometimes it's off. Obviously, I'm not referring to the entire digital space, but most of it, I think, can work like that, and has proven that it's needed. We see how more and more we search for this connection. There are mental health issues. There are more countries that are banning the use of the internet and social media for kids under 15, and there are so many laws for the right of disconnection. So I aim for a digital space that is more attuned to the planet, to its beings and rhythms, one that is not always on, accessible, or necessarily fast or high resolution. A digital space that is not Cartesian and extractive, but one that celebrates these feral proliferations, a life-affirming digital space. And this is everyone who has contributed to all these projects. I don't work alone. I work with so many feral and rolly communities. Thank you so much.
Pues now the artist, she's finished, and now the artist is waiting for communicating with us. So
In this presentation, I'm going to focus on the impacts of digital infrastructure.
wait a second, and then I just enter the That's I don't know if you have any question to what you have seen now. Or? It's like, then just say hello to everyone or whatever you want, because we have a long seminar day already.
I know.
Yeah. Bueno, thank you for connecting.
Would it be possible to borrow the video and show some of my colleagues?
Yeah?
Is that okay, Marta? Marina?
Yeah. Yes, that's okay.
I work here at the museum and I have
Fantastic.
some colleagues I'd like to show. It was
I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there in person.
Yeah. Yes, we have a question here.
No, I just wanted to say that was a really, really powerful. Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was so powerful, and I think, you have brought up things that.
Maybe this is for the streaming. But maybe
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
sorry.
to talk here for the
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for a really wonderful presentation, and it was just so vivid and impactful. So yeah, it would be wonderful if it was available to a wider audience. But I was just thinking, you're based currently, you're based in the East Coast of the U.S., or are you?
Oh, half of the year, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering how your work has been received in the various sort of academic and artistic spaces you've been working in, and particularly since AI is, we're all aware of this bubble, but it's still being super invested, at least in many of the academic environments. So it's only escalating from what I can see. How has your work been received by academics and artists and others that you've been engaging with?
I decided not to work as a full-time academic because to me it's very important to have half of my practice being advocacy and activism, and also developing my own projects. So that already affects the way in which I position my practice and how it is received. I still teach in Harvard and Columbia for one term a year, and more people is interested in reflecting on these questions. So, for instance, now what I'm teaching, I have to also change the way I teach at the university to incorporate these questions, but not only as a theory, something that you learn, but something that you practice. So how the students learn to set up their own servers, or how they reflect on the impact of the type of images they produce. So we discuss what it means to produce high-resolution images for everything, or when it is important to have high-resolution images. So this year is the first time that I'm going to teach a course where we actually look into all the tools that students of architecture, in this case, are using as end users, and how they can have agency. So, for instance, looking into ChatGPT or Blender or Microboard or Pinterest, like all the set of platforms that are circulating in the school, in many schools around the world, and how they can learn who own those companies, how they operate, what are the impacts, how the settings are organized, and then how you can also intervene and make your own tools, because the way in which you use tools also affect the work. So you can see how AI is now having an impact in architecture that is being built. So that's very interesting in relation to university. And then, my work, I think what I'm surprised is not the reception that can have in universities, because that's my natural environment, but how I started to do much more advocacy, advisory work, like working with governments in drafting plans for data center regulation, working with municipalities, assisting them in negotiating with corporations, because they feel very exposed and without the proper training to do so. And that's, to me, is totally unexpected. So that's
an interesting in development. But yeah, I think in many cases what is perceived is my practice is very polyedric, so it's difficult to grasp exactly, you know, where to locate my practice, if it's in the academic work or it's artistic or it's more activist. And in a way, for me, it's not a problem because I think that I'm interested in this question and I try to somehow intervene from different sides because all of them are almost impossibilities. So I try to think through legislation, through activism, through artistic practices, through you know, prototyping. And in all those spaces, you have different conversations and different relations with the fields, and it's all are very different fields.
Thank you so much. That was very inspiring.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, Marina, then thank you very much for being here and make the effort that I know that today was a very hectic day for you. And yeah, it has been amazing.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry not being very much here. Have a good time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye. Bueno, pues this is all from now. So the next activity, because we don't want you to get bored. The next activity will be at the studio, PIKSEL studio. And then now, we will start, probably it's a bit delayed. We will start at 3 or something, no? Around, maybe?
It's almost 2, so yeah.
Yeah. Around 3 we will start doing the screening of the 2 films, one from Ewen and Maya, and one from Marina at the studio. And then we will have this